It was a bright, bustling day at the grand headquarters of Aerotech, one of the top tech companies in the city. The open office space, full of glass walls and sleek furniture, hummed with the quiet chatter of 100 employees. There, at the center of the room, stood the CEO, Daniel Richards, sharp, self-assured, and commanding. Every movement he made exuded confidence, but today, his mind was elsewhere. He wasn't here just for a meeting, he was here because of a reason far more personal. At his side stood his daughter, Emily, a young girl of about 10, with striking brown eyes and a radiant smile, but there was something about her that seemed to distance her from the crowd. Emily was deaf. While most of the employees shuffled past them, glued to their own worlds, no one seemed to take much notice of her, and even less of her father's presence. The usual greetings, the business smiles, the polite handshakes, all flowed around her, but not to her. The space between Emily and the others was palpable. And yet, Daniel kept his composure. As the head of a multi-million-dollar company, he had seen all kinds of snubs, judgment, and exclusion, but this one, with his own daughter, hit him harder than he could admit. He tried to ignore it, tried to focus on the task at hand. This was a business trip, after all. But when Emily's face lit up as a member of the staff walked by and gave her a brief, polite wave, only to look the other way when they crossed paths, he couldn't ignore it anymore. She felt invisible, and the heavy weight of that loneliness pressed on his heart. Emily tugged at his sleeve, her soft fingers speaking volumes. She signed the word, "Hello," to him, a simple, familiar greeting, but when her father looked up, he saw her face fall just a little. No one had noticed. No one had even given her a second glance, even though they all interacted with each other constantly, exchanging small talk and smiles. At that moment, Daniel caught sight of someone who had been standing in the corner of the room, near the coffee station, a man, probably in his mid-30s, casually dressed in a simple jacket and jeans. He was focused on his laptop, but his eyes moved, ever so slightly, to where Emily stood. There was something in his gaze that immediately caught Daniel's attention. The man wasn't looking at Emily like she was an outsider or a curiosity. No, his gaze was different. It was one of understanding, and then, without a second thought, he raised his hand and signed the word, "Hello," back to her. Emily froze. Her eyes widened with recognition, and for the briefest moment, the entire room seemed to quiet down, as if time itself took a pause. The man's gesture wasn't just a casual greeting, it was a bridge. It was the moment where Emily didn't have to feel like an outsider. For the first time in the sea of unfamiliar faces, someone had acknowledged her directly. A smile crept onto her face, slow at first, like the sun coming out after a storm. Her entire demeanor shifted, the tightness around her eyes loosened, and her shoulders, which had been hunched slightly in hesitation, relaxed. Daniel felt a lump form in his throat as he watched his daughter light up like that. "Thank you," Daniel mouthed, unsure if the stranger could even read his lips. But the man simply nodded, his face sincere, before returning to his laptop. It wasn't an act of grand heroism, just a small, quiet gesture that made a world of difference. The scene was so subtle, yet so profound. It wasn't until later, when Daniel gathered himself in the corner of the office to prepare for his speech, that he found the courage to approach the man. "I noticed what you did earlier," Daniel said, stepping forward with a hand extended. "My daughter, Emily, she's been through so much already. I can't express how much your gesture meant to her." The man smiled softly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "I get it," he said. "My sister's deaf too. I know what it's like when people just don't see you." He shook Daniel's hand. "I'm Thomas, by the way. It's no big deal. Just trying to make sure people feel seen." In that moment, Daniel realized something. It wasn't the grand speeches or fancy presentations that truly made a difference. It was the small moments, the tiny acts of kindness and understanding, that had the power to transform a room, a life, even an entire culture. The next few days, Emily's spirit seemed to soar. The room wasn't as cold anymore. People, slowly but surely, began to reach out. A few employees, inspired by Thomas's quiet act, learned a few signs to say, "Hello," or, "Thank you," to Emily. Others asked her about her interests, eager to connect with her in a way they hadn't before. And though it wasn't perfect, there was a noticeable shift, a shift away from the awkwardness of exclusion and into the warmth of inclusion. As for Daniel, he took what happened to heart. On the last day of his trip, before he left the office, he gathered his team. With Emily standing proudly by his side, He spoke passionately about something he had never spoken about in business meetings before: empathy, understanding, and the importance of reaching out beyond the surface. "I know we're all here for a common purpose," Daniel said to the team. "But I want to make sure we're not only seeing the product or the numbers, we're seeing each other." He glanced down at Emily, who was beaming, her face alight with pride. "Sometimes, it takes a small gesture to make someone feel valued. And that, I think, is how we'll truly make a difference, not just as a company, but as human beings." The room was quiet for a long time afterward, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a moment of reflection. As Daniel and Emily left the building, he couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. His daughter wasn't invisible anymore. She had a place, a voice, a connection, and it all started with a simple hello. If you've ever felt overlooked or like you didn't belong, just know, you're not alone. It takes one person, one small act of kindness, to turn things around. So, next time you see someone who's different, who feels left out, take a moment. Say hello. You never know how much it might mean. If you like this story and it made you think about the small ways we can change the world, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's keep spreading the message of kindness and inclusion, one gesture at a time.